Hello, students. Today we're going to be reading Chapter 5 of Jerry Spinelli's Stargirl. And if you have the same published copy I do, that's going to be on page 22. I'm going to jump right in. The call came from Kevin on a Friday night. He was at the football game. Quick, hurry, drop whatever you're doing now. Kevin was one of the few who went to games. The school kept threatening to drop football because of low attendance. They said ticket receipts were barely enough to pay for electricity to light the field. But Kevin was screaming on the phone. I jumped in the family pickup and raced to the stadium. I bolted from the truck. Kevin was at the gate windmilling his arm. Hurry! I threw the $2 admission at the ticket window and we raced for the field. See better up here, he said, yanking me into the stands. It was halftime. The band was on the field, all 14 of them. Among the students, it was known as the world's smallest standing band. There weren't enough of them to form recognizable letters or shapes, except for a capital I. So they didn't march much at halftime of games. They mostly stood, in 2 rows of 7 each, plus the student conductor. No majorettes, no color guard, no flag and rifle girls. Except this night. This night, Stargirl Caraway was on the field with them. As they played, rooted in their places, she pranced around the grass in her bare feet and long lemon yellow dress. She roamed from goalpost to goalpost. She swirled like a dust devil. She marched stiffly like a wooden soldier. She tootled an imaginary flute. She pogoed into the air and knocked her bare heels together. The cheerleaders gaped from the sidelines. A few people in the stands whistled. The rest, they barely outnumbered the band, sat there with, "What is this?" on their faces. The band stopped playing and marched off the field. Stargirl stayed. She was twirling down the 40-yard line when the players returned. They did a minute of warm-up exercises. She joined in, jumping jacks, belly whomps. The teams lined up for the second half kickoff. The ball perched on the kicking tee. She was still on the field. The referee blew his whistle, pointed to her. He flapped his hand for her to go away. Instead, she dashed for the ball. She plucked it off the tee and danced with it, spinning and hugging it and hoisting it into the air. The players looked at their coaches. The coaches looked at the officials. The officials blew their whistles and began converging on her. The sole policeman on duty headed for the field. She punted the ball over the visiting team's bench and ran from the field and out of the stadium. Everyone cheered. The spectators, the cheerleaders, the band, the players, the officials, the parents running the hot dog stand, the policeman, me. We whistled and stomped our feet on the aluminum bleachers. The cheerleaders stared up in delighted surprise. For the first time, they were hearing something come back from the stands. They did cartwheels and backflips and even a 3-tiered pyramid. Old-timers, or as old as old-timers got in a city as young as Micah, said they had never heard such a racket. For the next home game, more than 1,000 people showed up. Everyone but Wayne Parr and Hillary Kimball. There was a line at the ticket window. The refreshment stand ran out of hot dogs. A second policeman was called in. The cheerleaders were in their glory. They screamed up at the bleachers, "Give me an E!" The bleachers screamed back, "E!" We were the electrons, in honor of the town's electronics heritage. The cheerleaders ran through all their routines before the first quarter was over. The band was loud and peppy. The football team even scored a touchdown. In the stands, heads kept swinging to the edges of the field, to the entrance, to the street lamp-lighted darkness behind the stadium. The sense of expectation grew as the first half came to a close. The band marched smartly into the field. Even they were looking around. The musicians did their program. They even formed a small lopsided circle. They seemed to linger on the field, drawing out their notes, waiting. Finally, reluctantly, they marched to the sideline. The players returned. They kept glancing around as they did their warm-ups. When the referee raised his arm and blew his whistle for the second half to begin, a sense of disappointment fell over the stadium. The cheerleaders' shoulders sagged. She wasn't coming. On the following Monday, we got a shock in the lunchroom. Bleached blonde and beautiful Mallory Stillwell, captain of the cheerleaders, was sitting with Stargirl. She sat with her, ate with her, talked with her, walked out with her. By sixth period, the whole school knew. Stargirl had been invited to become a cheerleader and had said yes. People in Phoenix must have heard us buzzing. Would she wear the usual skirt and sweater like everyone else? Would she do the usual cheers? Did all the cheerleaders want this? Or was it just the captain's idea? Were they jealous? Cheerleading practice drew a crowd. At least 100 of us stood by the parking lot that day, watching her learn the cheers, watching her jump around in her long pioneer dress. She spent 2 weeks practicing. Halfway through the second week, she wore her uniform, green-trimmed white V-neck cotton sweater, short green and white pleated skirt. She looked just like the rest of them. Still, to us, she was not truly a cheerleader, but Stargirl dressed like one. She continued to strum her ukulele and sing happy birthday to people. She still wore long skirts on non-game days and made a home of her school desk. When Halloween arrived, everyone in her homeroom found a candy pumpkin on his or her desk. No one had to ask who did it. By then, most of us had decided that we liked having her around. We found ourselves looking forward to coming to school, to seeing what bizarre antic she'd be up to. She gave us something to talk about. She was entertaining. At the same time, we held back because she was different. Different. We had no one to compare her to, no one to measure her against. She was unknown territory, unsafe. We were afraid to get too close. Also, I think we were all waiting to see the outcome of an event that loomed larger and larger with every passing day. The next birthday coming up was Hillary Kimball's. That concludes Chapter 5 of Jerry Spinelli's Stargirl. I hope